was excited about heaven and seeing Jesus one day. And we can rest in the promise that we will all be together, whole and complete once again. This following piece was submitted by Midge Van Dunn in Turlock in the Modesto Bee. Jonathan Russell Van Dunn died October the 15th, 1996, and he was 10 years old. And now, my dearest one, Doc Wisdom has a special segment just for you. Listen. Just listen with your heart.
In the Bible, there are many references to the grace of God and His kindness. There are stories of His boundless generosity. In return, we're expected to be grateful and worship Him. In the Bible, we also learn of the 10 Commandments, which God defines the laws of which we're all expected to conduct our lives. As far as I know, they have never changed. Although gratitude and thankfulness are not generally defined in the Bible, there is no question about obedience. Once again, we run into an area that theologians have great disagreement. I will not pretend to know the answers to all of the questions that the Holy Writ provokes. I will say that the reason and wisdom dictates God lives, and He sent His only begotten Son into the world for the sins of men. This being the case, and we having been created a little lower than the angels, presents a question. Shouldn't we be grateful? I believe we should give thanks for all of our blessings. I know that there are those who live in endless suffering and deprivation. The question is this God's fault, or is it we who bring it upon ourselves? As the annual day that's set aside for Thanksgiving approaches, and the season in which we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ follows, will you join me in putting the reason back in the season? May God bless each and every one of you with health, wealth, and wisdom throughout the coming year.
Thank you so much, Doc, for your wonderful words of wisdom once again. Now, this next segment is a true story. The story of a vagabond. Let's begin. His parents are gone. He has no living brothers and sisters, and his wife and son were killed by a drunken driver 17 years ago. So Lonnie Lee Walker, 42, trudges through life alone on foot, making his way across the continental United States, visiting as many as 100 towns a year, carrying everything he owns on his back. A bedroll and clothes, that's about it, says Walker, as he sips coffee in the Sonora Inn. I'm a vagabond. He plays the piano for tips and meals wherever he goes. For the past 2 months, it's been in Sonora and Columbia. Wow, 2 months. That's a long time for Lonnie Lee Walker to be off the road. He's renting a room in a friend's home, and that's pretty rare too. He normally sleeps on the earth on a bedroll, and he says, I'm homeless by choice, but it's a lifestyle I'm in love with. Besides playing music, he has never taken another job, but neither has he ever been on welfare nor in jail. He does get stopped by the police now and again, like maybe twice a week on the average, when he's walking from town to town. It's the shaggy beard, the leather side pack, the bedroll, the old hat, and the clothes that make him a target for that. It's the hippie look. It's the way he's dressed. Invariably, the officer wants to see him identification, and invariably Lonnie Lee Walker doesn't have any, as he's never had a driver's license. When an officer stops me, I simply tell him the truth, anything that he wants to know. I respect the uniform, and I realize I'm dealing with someone who may or may not be having a good day. The respect and the truth works every time, Walker says. That's why he has never been arrested. Well, that, plus the fact that he never carries weapons or drugs, and he rarely swears, and you won't ever catch him drunk in public. I obey the laws, he says. I'm the guy you see waiting for the walk sign before I cross the street. I never try to beat cars. Those people in the cars are in a hurry, but I'm not. He avoids freeways and he avoids big cities. And on the road sometimes, he has to avoid objects being thrown at him from cars. People have shouted insults to him and actually try to run him off the road at times because of simply the way he looks. And when he gets to a strange town, he can almost taste the prejudice. He relishes breaking through that, though, the way he always breaks through it, on a piano. He'll read his audience and play what they relate to. He knows more than 2,000 songs from the 20s through the 30s, all the way to the 90s. And no matter what you look like, with that much ammunition, you'll always connect with people. I feel like I've given up material things, he says, to be able to bring music to people and the world. I'm a loving person. I love people, and I love playing music for these people. And I'll play anything. I'll play blues, rocks, country, and rag. Well, I'll play Clamptown, the Stones, the Beatles. I'll play Eptide, the Sunny Side of the Street. And I'll play Gilligan's Island and Pink Floyd back to back. In any town, he says, I can always make enough money to live on. And he'll make friends, and he'll be accepted, and people will want him to stay. But eventually, Lonnie Lee Walker will be walking again, en route to anywhere, USA. Out there in the fresh air, smelling the seasons, listening to the birds, and dodging things thrown from cars as they pass by. This, my dearest ones, is the true story of Lonnie Lee Walker. And if by chance you see him passing by, give him a wave and a hello for me. This is Barbara Clouser. And now, my dearest ones, my next segment is entitled Fried Eggs. Let's begin. We're going to enter the archives of my mind as I can feel another story coming on. Are you ready? Let's begin. I remember it was the 4th of July of 1948. It is so clear in my mind that it seems to have happened only but a moment ago. I was 8 years old, and I was spending the entire summer once again at my grandparents' house in the country. The day had been a blister, and my uncle, who was a teenager, snuck out of my grandma's fridge 2 fresh eggs, by the way, that came from the old hen house. And he proceeded to crack them and cook them on the sidewalk. And as I looked on, they sizzled, and I looked on in wide-eyed wonder. And then he told me, with much gusto and pride, that he was a teenager, and I was a pipsqueak, and I better stay out of his way if I knew what was what. And I'd better not tattle on him but the egg mess on Grandma's sidewalk. And as he was giving me this speech, he was frantically trying to clean up the mess all at the same time. But I swore I wouldn't snitch, just as long as I could read all of his comic books. You know the ones I'm talking about. Archie and Jughead, Betty and Veronica, Batman and Robin, and many, many more, too numerous to mention.